everyone here, and truly may this be the last time that you have to have this gathering.
And I'd like to once again thank Father Hitchens and this parish for allowing us to hold this meeting here. We thought it really would bring the spirit of the event to be in a Ukrainian-related facility. At this time, we would like to invite Steve Heineman up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And to further acknowledge our appreciation for the great country that we live in, we would like to invite Tomaszek Bednarek, a singer, songwriter, lyricist, award-winning, all-around entertainer who is going to sing God Bless America for us.
I'm going to ask all you to stand too. Just back and forth here because I want to hit that.
You ready?
Yeah, you bet. You know, we are so blessed to be in this country. We are the land of the free because we are the home of the brave. And because it's men and women, glorious people like you, our country, our nation is ever blessed. And so I've been asked to come and share a little moment here with y'all. But I was hoping to have the song music a little bit higher. So here we go. God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night by the light of her heart. And to the prairie, to the ocean, wide with foam. God bless America, our home, sweet. Oh yes, here's our flag right there. That I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night by the light of her love. From the mountain, Trinity, to the prairie, oh yes, to the ocean, wide with God bless America, our home, sweet home. It is sweet, yes, yes. From the mountain, come on everybody, to the prairie, to the ocean.
And doesn't that remind you why we want to bring these children here? I want to briefly review kind of our plan for the day. What you've seen so far is part of our welcome, and we're going to go a little bit into an overview of the situation with our families and these orphans for anyone that is here today that is not as familiar with the situation. Around 9:30, we're going to go into a segment we call Current Conditions and Challenges for Orphans, and we're going to find out through a variety of speakers what is happening around Europe and in Ukraine, where our children are. And at 11 o'clock, we have a section called In Their Own Words, and we're going to hear from some children who've been communicating with their parents here, and also some teens that have recently gotten out of Ukraine and Europe. At 11:30, we'll break for lunch. I know you all don't want me to mention the food truck again, but it sounds like everybody had an opportunity to pre-order that. We have 1 hour, which is why we didn't want everybody to venture out and find the DC eateries, because at 12:30 we will start back with our panel talking about policies and solutions for stuck orphans. And we'll go till about 2 o'clock, possibly some opportunities for question and answer at the end of that segment. And at 2:15 we'll be getting on chartered buses to go to the National Press Club. Our press conference is scheduled for 3 o'clock. So again, I'd like to share an overview of the children and the situation so that everybody sees who our group is and who our children are. This is kind of our plea, and you all have been carrying this message to your communities and to our lawmakers for almost a year and a half, but I believe everyone here knows there are 200 American families that need urgent support from our federal government to bring 300 Ukrainian orphans, all who are in the process of being adopted, to the U.S. for safety until the war ends and legal adoptions can resume. I don't know if everybody has seen this. I'd love to see an update on this graphic. This is from the Reuters organization from September of 2022. And you'll hear a lot of different numbers being tossed around about the number of Ukrainian orphans. And if anybody has updated data, please chime in. But on this graph, they showed about 105,000 children in Ukraine's institutions at the onset of the war. But everything in purple there represents a mass of children who actually have families in Ukraine. And as the war broke out, these children were sent back to their families. So these are families that feel like they cannot raise their children. They don't have the means, the resources, very impoverished families. Those children did have some situation to go back to. So it is only the yellow portion of the graph that are our legal orphans with no parental ties. Of those, it's 5,150 were the number of orphans at the onset of the war. 51% were evacuated to EU countries. 18% were evacuated and changed locations within Ukraine, and about 31% remained at their pre-war institutions. So we have a lot of talk about Poland and Italy and Romania, but let's not forget that 31% of those children are in the facilities they were when war broke out. So again, our group is the 300, and I call them intended adoptees, who were identified as legal orphans available for international adoption. Now, as far as who are the children, this comes from some of the data and the surveys I've helped you guys for. I'm going to actually start on the right. 59% of the children that we're trying to adopt are teenagers, ages 13 to 18. 39% of those are school-age children. Only 2% are the younger siblings, who I call toddlers, and most of those are part of a sibling group. My point on this slide is so that we are prepared to fight the argument that we're trying to steal Ukraine's children. look how many of these are older children. And you all know from the foster system in the United States, children of this age are considered generally unadoptable. Okay? Again, who are the children? 85% are teens and older children. So this is age 10 and up. In this country, the odds of being adopted after age 10 are very, very slim. Many of you are trying to adopt sibling groups. Out of those 300 children, 87% are part of a sibling group. And we know from adoptions, it is harder to place sibling groups. And many of you have stepped up and are willing to do that. Now, it's very hard to talk about how many of our children have special needs. But as we'll hear a little bit later, it's fair to assume that 100% of them have been impacted by some type of trauma, some type of delays from institutional living. Now, some of you may have the medical histories and some may not have them yet, but UNICEF estimates that 50% of orphans in Ukraine have some type of physical need as well. And I would say it's fair to say that 100% of our children have been overlooked for in-country adoption. All of these went through a system where they were available for adoption within their oblast and then in the country of Ukraine. Okay, so how did children meet their American families? 93% of the children in this group have been hosted in a pre-war recreation program in our homes. There's about 3% that were introduced by another host family, about 3% with another close connection, 1% that is our siblings or a relative of another adopted child. One child or siblings were adopted, there's another one. Of our group of 300, none have been matched through the ministry program. Families that have been matched and gone through those proceedings have been able to complete their adoptions. The number of 200 families, I'm sure you've all heard this number again and again since the beginning of our efforts. This is an estimate that was put together in March of 2022 by the National Council for Adoption. It is my belief that that number has fluctuated and that there have been some people that moved into that class and out of that class. First of all, in those original 200 families, some have been able to bring children home, teenagers home on the U4U program. I've heard of a few cases where some teenagers have decided they don't want to be adopted. So those families may have left the initial cohort of 200 families, but in March of 2022, many families had not yet contracted with an international adoption agency. So there's a number of us that got on board and completed our contract, started our home study in kind of that March to June timeframe, back when the war was supposed to take 2 months. Ukraine Care 300 is a very loose, parent-run, volunteer-run organization where we decided back at the end of September, early fall, that it was going to be better for us to communicate with legislators using an organized name and an official-looking email. We communicate with about 130 families. So out of what I still believe is about 200 families, there's about 70 that are not on our roster, 70 families that probably didn't get news about today's summit. And so to the extent that any of you know of other families that are not looped in, we think some things are going to happen. The wheels are starting to turn, and we need to reach those families as well. We don't want to leave them behind. Out of the 130 families that are involved with Ukraine Care, I thought it was fun to look at a distribution. Oregon, Washington, Texas, Indiana, New York, a lot of families represented there, but again, thank you for those of you who traveled across the country in several time zones to be here. Okay, we're almost done with the statistics and things, but the 200 families, where were we in the adoption process? For anybody who sat down and counted, there's about 9 steps in the process from deciding that you want to adopt a child and all of the paperwork and all of the places that it's filed. So where are our families? 96% of our families have completed background checks that had been approved by Ukraine for the purpose of hosting. Ukraine has checked and verified 96% of our families already. Last time we took the survey, 81% of families were already under contract with an international adoption agency. Now, the reason I mention these is some of these are criteria that have been suggested for what families would be allowed to bring their kids over. In the humanitarian parole proposal that we'll talk about later this afternoon, these were some of the criteria, so this covers a lot of our families. 78% have completed a home study. 56% have gone in and received USCIS approval. 22% have submitted their dossier to Ukraine. 15% of our families have approved dossiers on file with Ukraine. And this afternoon we'll talk about how maybe that will make sense to treat these different groups differently, okay? We're going to watch a brief video here, getting to know our families.
So I'm in the adoption process for 5 kids, but we have only hosted one, and we hosted him 2 different times. We hosted him first in the summer, had him from June all the way through August, and then hosted him again in December all the way up.
She's talking on my screen, but not up there.
Once again, as we said, a bunch of volunteers that aren't professionals.
It happens when you have professionals also. Yes,
So I'm in the adoption process for 5 kids, but we have only hosted one, and we hosted him 2 different times. We hosted him first in the summer, had him from June all the way through August, and then hosted him again in December all the way up until January, when troops were, building up against the borders, and we were just praying that the war was not going to happen. And he was 10 years old when we met him, and we brought him home, and 5 days into hosting him was his birthday. And then we gave him 3 gifts, and we gave him a backpack, so when he went home, he would have a backpack to put some of his stuff in, and a couple of things, and as soon as he opened up the 3 gifts, he got up and said, "I need to use the toilet." And I said, "Okay," and I just had that mama feeling where you're like, something's not right here. He went upstairs, and he was in there for about 10 minutes, and then he went into his room, and I kind of knocked on the door and went in there, and his shirt was just soaking wet, and he was bawling. And I translated to him, because his English was not as good as it is now. I translated to him, like, "Did something happen? Are you upset? Do you want to talk about it?" And he took my phone, and he translated. "I want my birthday wish to be in your family forever." He was a missing puzzle piece. He fit so perfectly, and for 5 days into hosting, we said, "We are going to adopt this child." And we started the adoption process while he was here with us. We were working on it behind the scenes for him to not know. So from then on, we kept making sure that we were making steps in the right way and trying to get there. And our adoption was so close to the end when this was about.
We also met M&M through hosting. We first hosted them in December of 2018, and at the time they were 11 and 12 years old. Like Gina's story, I think all of us, we got a little blurb about them and their photo, and from the beginning we were adoption minded, and we knew we wanted to adopt 2 kids. We really liked the idea of a boy being older than a girl, and we wanted both genders, and we do not have any biological children, and for us this is like, we were like, this is what we're going to do. This is where all of our eggs are going in this basket, and this is how we're going to grow our family. And we saw their adorable little faces, and we sat in the living room that night. It was day 4, they had done it 4 days, and he burst into tears. And I said, I love them. I want to be their mom. So for us, like 4 days, we're doing like this is what we're doing, no turning back.
So my story is a little different. I have 2 boys that are from southeastern Ukraine, and I actually met the oldest one when my son was still at the orphanage. We adopted and brought home our son in March 2021, and we hosted him previously. We sent him back with a phone, and when he would call me, a lot of times my older boy would be on the phone with him, and so I would get to talk to my older boy during those conversations, although we didn't understand each other. We would talk anyway, and I have some screenshots of, those times when both of the boys were on the phone talking to me when they were still in Ukraine at the orphanage. They were separated for years. I do know that. How many years, I don't know. The younger one was put into a severe disabilities orphanage. So when we brought home our son, we had to decide within days if we were going to host it at summer hosting. And we didn't know how settling in was going to go, and even though our son kept telling us that this was his brother, even though biologically they are not brothers, he saw him as his brother. So we were able to get a friend of a friend who lived about 15 minutes from us. They took him and hosted him that summer of 2021. And then they basically shared him with us. And my husband was very much, we're adopting this one, we're not adopting anymore, that's it, we're not hosting anymore, so on and so forth. And he took him to the playground, and we got in the car that night to take him back to his host parents, and my husband looked at me and he said, "So how much is this going to cost?" He knew right away that my heart was going to be to pursue this boy. And he brought him home that night and to his host family. And he wrapped his arms, I'm sorry. He wrapped his arms and his legs around me and just cried and didn't want to let me go. And I wasn't even his host mom.
My dreams are actually even more than long-term thinking. Of course, we all want health, happiness, love, all of that. But right now, my dreams are so focused that I want them home. I want my kids to be reunited. I want them to be able to go to the dentist and get a dental cleaning and not have a toothache. I have 2 of my kids with heart conditions. I dream of taking them to the children's hospital and getting like a solid answer of what is going on with them and giving them medical treatment. I dream of giving them an education where they are just flourishing and feeling comfortable in an environment that they don't feel like they have to hide in the corner or beg not to go to school. I want to be able to sit and tuck them in at night and just simple things that my biological kids have. These are the dreams that I dream for these kids. I mean, I'm not talking college, future, everything beyond. I just want right now for them to be able to have what my bio kids have, and that is love. That is somebody who tells them, "Hey, did you brush your teeth?" Because literally one of my sons the other night was saying, "Mom, how am I supposed to wash up? Nobody's taught me." And I told him, "Well, you wash your face, you brush your teeth." And I was like, "How often do you brush your teeth?" He goes, "Never." I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I will make you a hygiene kit for my next trip, and I'll put labels and instructions on how to do this." I wish these kids could just have these simple experiences that make them light up like Christmas morning when we hosted them and brought them here on a daily routine basis and just being provided unconditional love.
Our dreams for these children would ultimately be a successful adoption, because as they are now approaching 16 and 17 years old, our dream for them would be to be here and have as much time with loving parents in a stable environment as possible. And we hang on to hope as the war drags on, but that I think is our ultimate dream. Of course, all the things that parents want for their children: success, happy life, successful careers, all of that stuff. But at the end of it, I think our dreams. Sorry. for them to just know that they're loved.
I don't want a day to go by where they don't feel loved and cherished and worthy. You know, that their life is important, their life has meaning, they have something beautiful to give to the world, and they've already given us so much. Can't imagine loving anyone on this planet like I love them. I mean, of course, because we don't have biological children, our hearts have just been opened up to this of a parent's love, right? You know, we never experienced that until, and then all of the things, right? All of the pain, all of the sadness, but all of the joys, and all of the laughs of things that they say, and you're like, wow, you surprised me with that question. Okay. They challenge us, you know, that they make us better, and they said it.
As far as my dreams for the boys, for my older boy, it's the love and security of a family for sure. He definitely took a lot longer than my previous adopted son to warm up and trust. He didn't trust that I was going to come back for him, that I cared enough, that anyone cared enough to come back for him. He's a very sweet, quiet kid, so he kind of flies under the radar. He's not a kid who gets a lot of attention, positively or negatively. And so I just want him to know he's loved and he's not forgotten. Someone who cares for him, who will fight for him every day the rest of his life. For my younger one, I of course want the same things, but I also really want him to get the services that he deserves. There's so many things that we can offer him that could help him flourish. And there's so much lost potential at these locations and at these orphanages of kids who have so much potential to be so much more than they'll ever be allowed to be in those positions. And that's what I want. I want my kids, I want all the kids, but in speaking about my kids, I want them to be able to flourish and be everything that they were meant to be and that they're capable of.
For those visitors here today, keep in mind there are 197 more stories like that.